my first step ever podcast, and I am Ishani Nigam, your host and producer of the podcast. This podcast is made for all the disruptors around the globe who know that they are made for something, for that one thing, but fear of embarrassment, fear of rejection, the fear of fear itself holds us back at some point in time. But hey, those are the only milestones that if we cross, we are there to take our first steps. So, welcome on this journey with me where I interview people from across the globe so that they can share their story, their challenges, and you know that even you can surpass yours. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome on my first step ever. We have had many firsts, relating to people from the entrepreneurship field, from startup, from tech, also people who love their jobs, they like to be on the jobs, people who like to travel and work from home. But today, we have a really upcoming and very essential field of work if someone wants to get into it or someone wants to invest their time, their love for this. And I can see a lot many people realizing the value of what our amazing guest speaker is doing today, the community. So please join me in welcoming Paz Pisarski all the way from Australia, who is really championing and being the flag bearer of why community is essential. So please give a round of applause to Paz. Hi Paz, welcome on my first step ever.
Hey, Ashani. So exciting. Thank you for the very warm welcome. I certainly am joining from down under in Torquay along the surf coast in Australia.
Incredible. And I like to kind of give a bit of a sneak peek about yourself to our listeners today before we move into this journey and uncover who Paz really is and what she does, what excites her. So, Paz has dedicated her life to helping people build impactful communities. She's the co founder of the Community Collective, a community for community builders in Australia and New Zealand. And it is really interesting. Do check that out. I will leave the links. She's helped 100 plus businesses build strong communities, including Australia's largest founder community called Startup Victoria, a local co-working space at Happy Space, a university startup community at RMIT Activator, asylum seeker women at non-profit SisterWorks. Now, this is incredible. So valuable, and many more. When not building community, you can find her drinking chamomile tea and composing some relaxation music at Paz Sounds. Now, this is interesting combination, and I am so excited to really dive deep and understand what motivates you and what really keeps you going. But before that, let me quickly ask you, now that I have spoken a bit more about community being essential, that's the thing of now and going forward. I like to kind of gather your thoughts very quickly on what really excites you about the industry that you're in, and also an unknown fact like that you would like to share with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. It's really, really awesome to be here. And I think that there are many exciting things about the startup industry and the community industry. Just to, I guess, allay the land a little bit, community building and being a community manager has been really this up and coming emerging role. I mean, this job has been around for many, many years, but being a community manager still can be quite unknown to a lot of people. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'll be referring to the industry that I work in as the community industry, which really applies to any business or founder that are building companies that are community led. And I also speak a lot about community managers. So these are the people who are tasked with connecting customers in a community in an engaged way for a company. And what I get really excited about is actually just witnessing over the past 5 years the shift in prioritizing community as not just this growth or marketing strategy for businesses, but actually as an integral part of building a financially sustainable and impactful business. It's been really exciting to, I guess, witness this shift because predominantly community management has been all about managing social media and responding to people online and thinking about marketing and how do you double down on word of mouth referrals. But really, community building has shifted as being an integral part of actually supporting customers in a really, really human-centric way. And I guess we've witnessed that over the couple years of the pandemic, everyone being isolated at home. It showcased the importance of connection, connecting with people online and in person. And it also showcased actually that, businesses can do more than just selling a product or service. They can actually connect you with people who might have similar interests. They are like-minded. You might live in a similar area. And really, that is what is exciting today. An unknown fact about me: I have played classical guitar in the Sydney Opera House. We performed a classical repertoire concert there.
Wow.
And the acoustics are beautiful. Yeah, I think that's a pretty unknown fact. I don't think I share that very much.
Amazing. I am already excited. I think we have set the context, the bar for people who are listening to us right now, that what we are really going to get into. And because this is, as you rightly said, an emerging field, it has been there, but its meaning, its dimensions are kind of, even unfolding, and we are kind of expanding in that area and really kind of understanding the human value of people working behind any business and why community is so important. So thank you so much, Paz, for kind of laying that land for our listeners and for myself to kind of understand where we are getting at. But let me take everyone and yourself a few years back, trace those steps back to your childhood, because we love to understand that how were you like when you were growing up, and what was the kind of mindset that you were surrounded with?
Yeah, for sure. Let's take it back to the beginning. I mean, I definitely did not picture myself running two businesses at this point in my life. So, I guess for a bit of context as to how I got here, I grew up in Melbourne, in Australia, and I grew up actually in a family of entrepreneurs. So, my father ran a private investigation business. He ran his own business for about 40 years. Very spy like. I can't really give much detail into that. Yeah, my mum also, she's a physiotherapist, but she started her own business to actually train other physiotherapists in behavior change. So she would train and run workshops about this methodology to help physios become better physios and deliver more patient-centered care. And I have an older brother, and he started a music festival in Victoria called Rabbit Hole as well, and has also ran his own videographer business, shooting drone footage around. So that's always really good in the music side of things, because I write relaxation music for meditation and film. So any beautiful nature shots go really well with that kind of music. So growing up in this kind of environment, we all have really big, ambitious ideas. Like anything is impossible. The sky's the limit. This played out in a lot of my life choices when, even during high school, I wanted to learn French. So I was 15 years old and I lived in Paris for 7 months, just studying the language there. That was so young to be over there, actually. And it was I think it was a really
You were
pivotal
way
time
ahead.
because, my family was supportive of something of that. Yeah. My family were really supportive of something like that. And I think I really learned how to be really independent quite young. And, like fast forward, I was always a person connecting people. I would run the netball team drinks, and would be, I guess, stepping up in university as the president of our like social club, and would organize our mid-year and end-of-year celebrations. And so community has always been, I guess, a part of my life, and I love connecting people because I love the idea that to be successful, you are of service to others whilst also feeling energetically fulfilled. So that's kind
Wow.
of how I've grown up viewing the world. And that's how I've really thought about, where I wanted to be. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to be an architect, and then I realized how hard architecture was studying at RMIT. So I kind of put that to the side, and I actually just focused on learning languages for a while. Lived in Spain for a year through uni, and just had a lot of travel experiences. And I guess my first taste of community as a job was when I started working at SisterWorks, this not-for-profit, and we were supporting asylum seeker women to happily settle in Australia. So a lot of migrants would move from overseas with their families, and all their qualifications would be deemed irrelevant. You know, they would be lawyers, doctors, dentists. They were way smarter than me, and they couldn't get a job. And that's really hard. And so joining this team and helping these women connect in person with other women who'd also moved from all over the world, you know, we were helping them start their own businesses. We were helping them become financially independent. And that just gave me this spark for, one, I want to help other people build businesses, and two, community is so powerful. And then that really just catapulted the rest of my entire career.
This is super incredible. The journey that you have taken us on, you have a spy at home, you have an awesome physiotherapist at home who's really, coaching, building, and helping other people. You have an awesome brother who has done really, really good for himself in the music space, in the videography space. And I think you are sort of kind of a culmination of all these amazing, strengths, skills, and everything over here. I really like the fact that from the very beginning, you were quite receptive of different cultures, the languages. It really comes through in your journey, so far that what you have reached. And I might say that you are an architect in some sort of ways. You're kind of, building this beautiful communities for people to kind of connect to, and, creating the network that they really want. So definitely an architect of sorts. Now, over here, I really want to kind of dive deep into the phase that you were 15 and you had just gone to a new country, a city. How was that experience for you? Because for a lot of listeners out there who are maybe planning to, go to a different country, a different city, in probably in the same country that they're in, it takes a lot. What has been, if you're happy to share, maybe a challenging time during that, growing days of yours, and that left a really lasting impression of you of any sorts?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And yeah, there's definitely one glaring memory that stands out for this. And you know, I guess when you're growing up, you've got to get really clear on your goals and what you stand for, and why you're doing what you're doing. And so to touch on your question as to when I went to Paris and France to learn French, I was really young. I wanted to basically absorb the language and just be immersed in it to really understand ins and outs of this beautiful language. And so, you know, my goal was to be fluent in French. And the reason I was doing that was because I really wanted to be able to converse in another language with a whole nother population of people. You know, there's a whole literature out there written in French. There's, you know, you can have these beautiful conversations. I think it's really great for the mind, doing Sudoku challenges every minute. You know, it's just it's keeping you alive and active. And I've just always loved the sound of French. And so I guess a challenge that I encountered when I was over there was before I left, we had an agreement that I would go and stay with this host family, and then I would do 6 months there, and then afterwards, the host families, their daughter would then come back to Australia with us and stay there. But whilst I was over there, the host family actually decided that they didn't want to go to Australia afterwards, and actually there was a bit of an age difference between myself and the host's daughter, and yeah, and she didn't want to go to Australia anymore. She actually just wanted to stay in school with her friends in Paris and just continue on that path, which is totally fine. But they wanted to end the exchange early. So after a month, they
Oh
were like,
no.
this is it. I was like, oh, whoa, like I still have like 5 months. Like I don't have anywhere else to live. Like, and you know, it's moments like that where you
Oh
come back
no.
to, you know, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, I'm here to learn French. This is really hard. I could just go home right now. But I decided to stay, and I spoke to a lot of people at school and found someone else that could basically host me for 5 months. So, yeah, I changed families. I lived with them. And I guess, like, the moral of the story here is just get really clear on your vision and why you're doing what you're doing, because when challenges arise, it's going to be hard, but you need to come back to the purpose.
My God, I think you have touched upon such a real and a deep and a very, very challenging situation. And I'm really, really glad that, you were very clear about your goals, your why, and you had the courage to kind of, take that step, that to stay back, to look for other options. And I know that you didn't have a lot of time to do that. And I can definitely feel how it feels to be, not having a home and kind of, you need to look for a home ASAP, because I was currently in that situation. So I can definitely feel that and understand that how challenging it is. When people say, oh, you need to be positive, at the time of, when you have the most challenging situation, it's more about, I think, from what I understand, it's more about the mindset. You don't know about being positive or negative about something, but it's more like, telling yourself, psyching your mind that this is your new normal, get used to it and get to the next step. So I think you did that, and I'm so happy and grateful that you have shared that with us, because a lot of people, especially the youth, when we face challenges, when we face an obstacle, we tend to kind of, think that what is the whole purpose? Why am I struggling? Why do I need to cry every night for this? Why do you need to do certain things? Should I just kind of just leave? But that's when you need to ask that, what is the goal? Why are you doing it? Every situation that happens and every step that you take, difficult or easy, it's all part of your journey, and you have to go through it if you have to sort of reach there. So it's really nice kind of embracing your challenges, and amazing. So Paz, from that amazing incident, I'm sure that uh, that's why we can see, why community is such a essential part of your life, and why it kind of trickles down in your thought process as well. So from this on, when you came back to Australia, and you thought of kind of being an architect, but then you wanted to kind of learn more languages, which is even more interesting. How was the journey around that time, before you found your way to SisterWorks?
Yeah, I guess, I came back from France. I was fluent in French, which was beautiful. And, I hit a point where I was dreaming in French, which was a really incredible bliss point in the brain when languages are really starting to seep in, which is nice. But I digress. So yeah, I guess I came back, I finished my studies, and I just wanted to learn more about the world. I was just really curious. I took a gap year in between high school and uni because I wanted to explore the world. And I think that, there can be a lot of pressure to decide when you're really young on the next 5 years in your career path that will determine your future. Whereas, I actually just wanted to take a step back and I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. And I think that travel and life experience gives me a lot of perspective, especially pursuing a lot of music and composition at that time. But I guess it wasn't until I finished, Bachelor of Arts in International Studies at RMIT. Did that for about 3 years. I then just went on to learn Spanish. And so I spent a year living in Madrid and studied over there because, well, I learned again that you need longer than 6 months. Probably a year is great. So I came back after Spain and, just wanted to graduate and have a clean start. And I guess what helped me in guiding me at that time in my life wasn't, what do I want to do when I'm older? I didn't ask myself that at all. I said, who do I want to be surrounded by? There's a really clear
Amazing.
difference there. It was actually about the people that I would be surrounded by. And so I started writing a list of all of the businesses that I admired. I was like, who is out there creating incredible change, having an impact on the world, having fun while they're doing it, has like a really relatable brand and like, I guess resonates with me. Like that's where I want to do work. The job, well, I'll get my foot in the door and I'll work out what I like later on and I'll work out what I want to do, I guess, once I found the environment to do it in. So that was really pivotal. And so one of the businesses on my list was RMIT. Like I'd studied there for so long. I really love, I guess, how they approach education. They encourage me to do internships. They encourage me to go overseas. So I wanted to help more people do that because I had found my way through that. So I basically just applied for all these different jobs at RMIT, any department, any role. I was just get my foot in the door. And I had an administration role at RMIT Activator, which is the entrepreneurship department of the university. And so this was after my time at SisterWorks. And basically that at end. And then I thought about more dream companies, and I landed at Activator, and I joined at a really great time because they had just opened this 3-story co-working space. It was pretty empty. They didn't really know exactly what they were going to do yet, but they wanted to help students, staff, and alumni start businesses. So I joined in an admin
Really
role,
good
and
timing.
I stayed with them for about 3 years. And I started as an admin role. I then went to a program associate for their accelerator program. I then was their program lead, and then I took on a community lead role by the end of, those couple years. So you can see that I didn't say like, oh, I wanted to be a community manager and I went and found community manager jobs and applied for them. I went and found the company that I wanted to work for, started in something, and then found my path within. And yeah, that was, we ran like 10 accelerator programs. We redesigned a whole co-working space. I joined when there was 500 members. I left when there was 5,000. We launched a new online membership for them.
Wow.
And really helped these founders not only connect with themselves, but also really feel a part of this community there, where RMIT was backing them to start businesses. And it was just so inspiring. So I guess, that was really how I approached it in the early days.
I can definitely see through the actions that you have taken one after the other. And also, you had that, whenever something is kind of just at the brink of starting, a new industry or a new kind of a working space, it's always a risk, and one needs to have that vision and the belief that what you are seeing and how you are seeing this thing, you might want to make it work that way. And I think you have so beautifully done that, because joining something where it has already been doing well, it's a good thing that you want to add to that, but actually making a start from the scratch and joining it and building it from the very scratch is a challenge, and it just does not kind of speak about your abilities to be in that role, but also as a leader, as a visionary, and much more. So thank you so much, Paz, for taking us through your first steps in the community building space. But I want to kind of also quickly touch upon your first steps of actually building the community collective. Let's say that we would love to know what were the top 3 learnings while you created that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's funny when I talk about the community collective, it was never our intention to build a business. Technically, it accidentally started a business because it actually started out as a meetup community in 2021. And at the time, I was working at Startup Victoria, which is now called the Startup Network. And I had noticed that during the pandemic, it was really tough building community. Predominantly, we'd done that in person, in co-working spaces. You could catch up for coffees and have dinners, and that's how you managed community a lot of the time in my role. And then throw in a pandemic, you moved online, you're navigating new tech tools, you can't see anyone, and everyone is experiencing their own challenges, and then relying on us for the support. So it was really tough. And I noticed that, I was having these really rough challenges, and I wanted to also see if anyone else was experiencing these challenges. And so I reached out to about 50 different people, asking them, do you know anyone managing communities in the startup space in Melbourne? It was so niche. That's 3 points of nicheness, if that is a word, but you
Yeah,
understand what I mean.
very
And
specific.
really speaking to all these people, yeah, super specific. And, I jumped on phone calls with all these people, and I just said, hey, how are you going? What are you trying to achieve in your role? What are the challenges that you're facing right now? And where do you go to get that support? And it was so clear that there were just these reoccurring challenges that people building communities were experiencing. And there wasn't a clear answer for where to get support on them. There was a lot of support around America and Europe and overseas. There was a couple adjacent communities that were kind of similar, but not specific in the startup space. And so, we suggested, why don't we all get together and create the support? Like, let's help each other. So it started as a meetup in between the 4th and 5th Melbourne lockdowns in June 2021 at
Wow.
the Commons in Cremorne. And we had 17 people join in person for wine, sushi, and hours of incredible conversations. And from there, our meetup registration link just went viral. And today, 2 years on, we have over 550 members in our community. We have over 7.8 thousand people in our audience. An audience is made up of our social media channels and newsletter. The community is made up of our meetup community members and our cohort members and ambassadors. And so, this has grown predominantly through word of mouth and LinkedIn. And it's been wild because there was so much growth and demand there that last year I quit my full-time job, registered as a company, and I co-designed a program to help more of these community managers. And yeah, we're 1 year on since basically registering as a company, and I'm employed full-time. I have a salary that's, only 30% less than my full-time job this time last year. And we have an incredible community of people who just keep coming back. And the stories of impact of how we've helped them not only enhance in their role, but build stronger communities has just been mind-blowing. And yeah, I'll never forget someone who wrapped up our previous program and they just said, I actually just why I do what I do now. And I actually can communicate it effectively and feel really passionate doing it. And that just changes everything for us. So I guess the moral of the story is we didn't start out wanting to create a business. We found a group of people that shared a similar problem, and our goal was to help them.
I can definitely see through an amazing case study with the community collective, how addressing problems in the community really leads to creating solutions that is sort of, informed by each and every member of that particular industry, which I can really see, at community collective has built, brick by brick with that information firsthand from the very beginning, and which is amazing. And I think that is probably one of the reasons of maybe it going viral, because it started off with the foundation of what people were really looking for. So I'm so happy, Paz, that I had this opportunity to speak with you, to be able to, kind of delve deep into who you are, why it all sort of matters to you, and also introducing this emerging and upcoming field which has already been there, but as we said, getting more context, more meaning in the coming years for our youth audience or anyone who's willing to kind of start a new inning. So thank you so much, Paz, for being on my first step ever. I will leave the link of the newsletter if someone's interested, and also the community collective. They have an amazing cohort that runs couple of times a year, I know that, and they really train people who are interested. So definitely do check that. And before you take a leave, I always request my guest speakers to leave our listeners with a quote or a saying that they resonate with.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for that wrap up as well, Shani. I guess before I share my quote, if you ever hear of someone who is looking to connect people and become better at building a strong community, just send them our way. We'd love to help them either through our program, with recruitment, or through coaching. And, one of the biggest quotes that has helped me still to this day was by Dan Sullivan, which is who, not how. It's very simple. Who, not how. And really what it elicits to is having this mindset. When you set out a goal or you realize what you're trying to do with a purpose that you're really passionate about, instead of asking yourself, how can I achieve this? How do I get really better at this? How can I, you're putting all the weight on yourself, but instead you ask, who can help me get here? Who can help me learn more about this? Who shares this passion? Because it really is about the people you surround yourself with. And I guess to leave you with a book that helps you surround yourself with better people, I would highly recommend reading Cult Status by Tim Duggan. Don't worry, it's not about how to start a cult. It's about how to build a business with a cult-like following around it, which is really the ins and outs of businesses in Australia who've built really incredible communities around them. And who gives a crap, and where with and Thank You Water, they're really thinking about how can they not only create a great product or service for their customers, but how can they connect them in a regular and ongoing basis so they can support one another. So yeah, Tim Duggan's also based in Sydney. He's traveling the world at the moment. He's just a legend. So it's a great read.
Wow, those are some really bonus tips that I think it's going to go so well with our listeners today. And I'm going to check out that for sure. And for your coach, it's about who, not how. That is so powerful. So thank you so much, Paz, for being on my first step ever. And to all my listeners out there, as I always say, start believing in yourself and keep believing in yourself. See you until next time. If you're still glued together on this episode, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if you really want to hear more such stories from around the globe, then subscribe to my First Step Ever podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify, whichever platform you prefer. Please do give ratings and please do write your comments. And you can directly reach out to me on my First Step Ever _IN. That's my Instagram handle. A little about myself. I have always loved performing on stage, acting, speaking, and just emoting myself. So I use these mediums different ways so that I can connect with people, help them, empower them, infotain them, which is to inform them and entertain them. If you would like to collaborate for any opportunities, more than welcome to connect with me on my Instagram handle. Thank you.